Here's the story of how I went from a full-time influencer to building a multi-million-dollar company. I'll even share a story about how we told our investors we were shutting down the company and how we managed to save it. So how hard can it be? We're gonna be transparent about numbers here, and it was a really hard pill to swallow. But we were at the point where we had to do something or we were just gonna die a slow death. Welcome to Let's Grow With It.
I've always been a little impulsive. I get an idea and just go with it. But that's the thing about life and business. You're always growing, learning, and figuring it out as you go. Welcome to Just Grow With It, the podcast where I share lessons I've learned as a founder and creator, the mistakes, the pivots, and the wins, and how staying consistent can change everything. So if you're ready to grow with me, let's get into it.
I am so excited. This is the very first episode of many, and this is my new show called Let's Grow With It. As you guys may know, I used to have a podcast named The Real Real, and I shut it down at the beginning of this year. It just wasn't something that fulfilled me anymore. I didn't feel like I was really driving value that I wanted to be giving to people. I was doing it more out of a chore and coming up with episodes just because I needed to come up with something versus actually having like a theme or a message. And I just got lost in uploading without any purpose. I took a step back this year. I definitely want to focus more on entrepreneurial content and business content. I want to shift my long form content on YouTube and also upload these on Spotify and anywhere where you listen to podcasts as well, so that you can have either an audio experience or a video experience. And I also have a newsletter that is going hand in hand with this episode. So if you guys want to sign up for the newsletter, you'll have a new email in your inbox every single Wednesday. It's gonna have industry news. It's gonna give a quick recap of this episode. You'll have the ability to submit more questions. I wanna go into other businesses, success stories, and lessons. I wanna give more valuable tips. And I make sure that I am always going to be a resource and not like an annoyance in your inbox. Be sure to sign up if you want to see that every Wednesday. I'm going to be your business coach. Actually, that's a lie. I don't want to be your business coach. I want to be your friend that started a company that can tell you lessons that she's learned along the way and give you hope that if I could do it, then you most definitely can do it. That's what Let's Grow With It is. We're going to be talking all about entrepreneurship. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty. I'll eventually love to interview guests as well, but for now I have so many things that I want to share from building Rella. I thought it was perfect to kick off the first episode with my entrepreneurship story and just give you context on how I went from being a full-time influencer. I quit my 9-to-5 to be a full-time influencer, to then going off and being the co-founder of a company and building a multi-million-dollar company. And I say multi-million-dollar company because in just 1 year since relaunching, we have surpassed the 1 million mark, which is just so exciting. And I wanted to come on here and share the journey and the lessons and everything in between. And I feel like this is the type of content I am always searching for. I want to put it out there on the internet. So if anyone is looking to build a company, or maybe you have already done that, or you're curious about it, or you just want to learn something that maybe your business school isn't teaching you, I wanted to come and sit here and share some of my lessons that we've learned along the way, because trust me, you guys, there have been so many lessons. There have been so many times where we were like, this is it. I'll even share a story about how we told our investors we were shutting down the company and how we managed to save it. So there are so many lessons that you guys are going to be hearing, and I want to make this definitely something that gives you value. So if there are certain topics or anything like that that you want to see, definitely let me know in the comments. So make sure that you are subscribed on YouTube. I'm going to have episodes every single Wednesday, and also make sure that you're following me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, because this will be going up there. I'm also creating a podcast studio in my apartment, so we're becoming legit.
I hope you guys are enjoying the episode so far, but I did want to pop in and say that this video is sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is by far the easiest way to build your online website, and it is so appropriate to talk about Squarespace in today's video because pretty much any time I've built a website, I have done it on Squarespace. I've dabbled and tried some other platforms, but none of them allow the customization that Squarespace does and how easy it is to build a website and start your business using Squarespace. I recommend it to all my friends. I've given my code out so many times. So many of you guys have already signed up for Squarespace and used my discount code. But if you are someone that is looking to start a business, the first thing you need to do is create a website, whether it's for a wait list to showcase your product or just to secure the domain, and you need to build it on Squarespace. They have the most beautiful templates to choose from. You can customize everything, and you can use Design Intelligence, which is their AI, to help you actually build the website. Rella's website is on Squarespace, so that's how you know how much we trust them, because the first thing anyone ever sees when they come to our our business is our Squarespace site. So if you guys want 10% off your first purchase or 10% off a domain, go to squarespace.com/NatalieBarbu and use my code NatalieBarbu at checkout. Let's go back to the episode.
I have always been very entrepreneurial without even knowing what the word entrepreneur meant. And what I mean by that is that I was always very, very curious and also impulsive, which I think are just two traits that a lot of entrepreneurs have. For example, when I was 15, I started a YouTube channel, and it was after about a day of watching a couple YouTube videos and thinking I could do that. Those girls are my age, they're doing it, why not me? And I immediately opened up my camera, decided I was gonna film a makeup tutorial, and uploaded the video that day.
And then over here, I have pretty much all my coupons. I got this from Starbucks, 10 free songs.
And although I didn't know in that moment that that was an entrepreneurial quality or that that would eventually be the starting point of my next business, it was. When I was 16, I remember getting compliments on my style in high school and on YouTube and thinking that, hey, I have good fashion sense. I can buy clothes for other people and be their personal stylist. And now the internet lets me do that with people all over the world. So why not? So I posted a YouTube video and I said that I was going to start charging $20 to buy your back to school outfits or any occasion, but it was around back to school when I launched. So I figured that was like a good kickoff point. And you give me your budget, I buy your back to school outfit, and then you give me $20 for the service fee. So it was kind of like Stitch Fix before Stitch Fix was a thing. I think I had maybe 5 people that paid me, and I always went over budget and then spent my own money and did not make any profit on it. But you know what? I started a business back then too. When I graduated college, I started my own clothing store called Shop Barbu. And if you guys have come from those days, please let me know. It was a wholesale clothing store where I bought clothes from wholesalers, sold them on Shop Barbu, and that lasted for about 2 years, but that was my very first taste of a legitimate business, and I really give it credit for paving the way for all of the other businesses that I started or dipped my toe in later in life. Shop Barbu, although it was short-lived and I don't think made much of a profit, really taught me the ins and outs of what it's like to operate and start a business, and I am so grateful for it. Once I graduated college, I did have my online store, but I also worked at Accenture, so I got a job once I graduated school with a big consulting company. And again, consulting has its hand in a bunch of different businesses, so I would be able to learn a lot, and so that's why I wanted a consulting role. But it was also short-lived because 9 months later, I ended up quitting because I was still doing social media throughout this entire thread of my career. And 8 years after I started in 2019, I was finally able to quit my full-time corporate job at Accenture because I was making double my salary on social media than I was at Accenture. We're gonna be transparent about numbers here. I was making $60,000 as an entry-level role when I graduated in 2018, and I was making about $120,000, $130,000 off of social media at that time too. And I decided it's time to go. I'm doing social media full time. I ended up saving my entire paycheck from Accenture, having a year's salary in my bank account, and took the leap to be a full-time influencer. And it was very scary because at that time, being an influencer was not as common as it is today. There were articles written about influencers quitting their jobs and, oh no, what are we gonna do? I remember telling people I was quitting my job and people being like, I don't understand. Why would you quit? What is social media? Because I don't think it's until after the pandemic when people realized how much money was in social media or how many people could do it as a career. And so I was very fortunate and very lucky to experience the success of social media in 2019 before COVID and be able to really do it as my career since then. But if you have been following me for a long time, you know that my goal was never to be a full-time influencer. As much as of an accomplishment it was, how proud I am that I was able to do it and still am able to do it as a career, I always wanted something more. I always wanted to be a business owner, as you can tell from my past, from my previous experiences. And so I viewed social media, even in 2019, as a stepping stone. I thought, I have these followers, I have this community, I have this opportunity right in front of me. I can use this audience and this platform to elevate whatever business I decide to do next. So I decided from my past experience starting my clothing store, I wanted to start an agency. So shortly after I quit my job, I ended up starting an agency called Barbu Agency. You guys, I am not creative on the name Shop Barbu, Barbu Agency, literally because I was like, My last name is fine. Let's slap it on everything. Would not do that again today, but anyways, I just wanted to launch. So I started my agency, and at this agency, I did one-on-one coaching with creators, but then I also worked with brands and with small businesses running their social media. So I hired someone for my agency part-time. I did social media management for a couple brands. I also did some like social media coaching calls or consulting calls for a couple brands. And then I did one-on-one coaching and consulting with hundreds of creators trying to also do this either as a career or take that next step and start making money on social media. And while I was running my agency, me and the girl that I was working with, we both always complained about the tools we were using. We were always looking for new tools, new platforms, new things to try that would just make running this agency a lot smoother and easier because we were constantly switching between a bunch of different apps. And at that point, like I said, I am still the very impulsive and curious person that I have always been. And I thought, well, we know what we want. We know what would make a tool successful. I'm just gonna go out and build it. How hard can it be? This is where like the narrator comes in and is like, it was very hard. I was super naive, I was curious, I was impulsive, and I decided I was gonna be the one to build a platform for people that work on social media to manage all their stuff. And that was the original idea, was people that work in social media, creators, managers, they could use this tool and they can manage everything. If you guys want to know how naive I truly was, I thought Rella was going to be passive income for me. I thought I could hire a developer, they could build this project. It was going to take 3 months to build. It was a project. They'd put it all together and then I could sell it for, a couple dollars a month. I think my original plan was $3 a month. It was a very different product in the early days, but I thought I'd sell it for $3 a month. I never have to touch it again. I can pay someone to build this and done, passive income. I viewed this as like a downloadable, but it was software. So if that tells you how naive I was, there you have it. And I'm saying this because hopefully if you are someone who you're like, I don't have a business experience, I don't have tech experience, I don't know how to code, I don't know what it's like to run a company, I've never done it before, at least you didn't think starting a software company was equivalent to starting a project that will earn you passive income. Let's just leave it at that. And the original idea was a place where at first creators could go and manage all of their content, their brand deals, their goals, etc. So although I was an agency, I really started Rella with the creator in mind because I was working with so many creators at my agency and I was a creator myself and creators were booming at that time that I was like, I feel like this could be good for influencers first. It has definitely evolved since that first idea, but you get the picture of what I thought it was going to be. Being naive when starting a business is such a blessing. So many people are scared to start because they know how much work it's going to be. They know that 95% of businesses, or whatever the statistic is, end in failure. They know that it's really hard to get a product off the ground, but being naive and jumping headfirst and thinking, I'll figure it out when I figure it out, you're diving in the deep end and you have no choice but to swim. And in all honesty, when you do start a business, even if you know how hard it's gonna be, even if you know, okay, I need to do this, 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 and this, which are all of the things that I'm gonna tell you in future episodes, you still are going to figure out so much along the way because the thing about business is that your business is unique. So even though, of course, I have lessons and I have listened to other people and I have learned from other people's experiences, think of your business as like your unique fingerprint. No one else has the same business. No one else has the same fingerprint as you. Your business has its unique set of challenges, its unique problems, its unique customers. And as much as you can learn, and you absolutely should learn from other people and read books and listen to podcasts and talk to mentors, you're gonna figure things out on your own once you're swimming in the deep end. So the first thing that I did when I decided I wanted to start yet another business was I wrote down everything that I wanted this app to have. So I knew I wanted it to be an app. I wrote down all of the features I envisioned. I wrote down what I kind of wanted it to look like and feel like, and I just wrote it in a Google Doc on a bullet page list. And I knew enough to know that I didn't know how to bring this to life. I didn't know how to build this. So I knew I needed a developer or an engineer. But again, I thought this was a project. So I went to freelancing sites and I looked for engineers there and I would get on a call with them and present my idea. I probably spoke with like 10 different engineers from these freelancing sites, sharing this document, sharing my idea, asking them, how much is this going to cost? How long do you think this is going to be? And all of those calls, I just had this gut feeling that they didn't get it. They would give me timelines. They would say, yeah, I can build this in 3 months, blah, blah, blah. But I just felt like they didn't fully understand what I wanted to be building. And I was really worried that I was going to waste a lot of money building something that didn't work. And then I wouldn't be able to continue to pay them to fix it, or they wouldn't be able to fix it because they'd be working on a bunch of different other things. And I just had a feeling that this is not the direction to go. I don't think I need a freelancer like this. I think I need someone that's kind of more like in-house and supportive. And so I went back to the drawing board, and I remembered I graduated from NC State with a degree in industrial engineering. And although I don't know how to code, I definitely know people that know how to code at NC State, or I knew people that knew how to code because we had a very big computer science program in engineering school. So I went to one of my friends, asked him if he knew anyone that could help me develop this, and he introduced me to the people that are actually my co-founders today, Connor and Nick, who they both had a software consultancy that they were working on together, where they helped other apps, and especially like local apps in North Carolina, they helped build them and bring them to life. And so I hopped on a call with them, and immediately it was like something clicked. I was asking Connor, how long and how much money is this going to take? I just wanted to know what are my expectations here. And he was the first person to be like, honestly, it completely depends. This is definitely more than a project. We're able to like get it off the ground and, start building this, but this is going to take time. This is how much our hourly rate is going to be, but like, I can't give you an exact answer, all of these things. And even though that might come off as a frustrating answer, because you're like, I just want to know exactly how much it costs, it was so refreshing because I was, wait, this person gets it. Not only did he understand what I wanted to build, but he understood the amount of work that it would take to bring this to life, and he didn't treat it as a project, which then made me realize, okay, I actually don't think this is a project. I think this is a company, and I need help with this. So I moved forward working with them, and at first I was paying with them because I just wanted to have them help me get it off the ground, and I would figure it out from there. Again, impulsive, I'll figure things out later. So I was just paying them to help me build this, and eventually after a few months, we just worked really, really well together, and they asked me if they could come on board as co-founders. And I was so relieved when they asked me that, because I think I was also thinking that at the same time. How am I going to build this company without them? Like, they're such an integral part at this point. And so it was a really good fit, and we decided to work together as co-founders. And that was months after we started working together one-on-one. So they came on as co-founders, they got equity. I didn't pay them for their like dev help anymore because they did get equity. We became a team. And originally, I don't know if a lot of you guys remember this, but we were a team of 4 co-founders. We are now a team of 3 co-founders, and that was a very early on decision. We were a team of 4 for only a few months, and that is a story for another day, but I am filming an episode all about co-founder relationships, co-founder problems, red flags to look for. If you guys want to ask any questions about that, please ask them in the comments so I can make sure that I cover them in that episode. But let me know if you guys remember that. We worked on Rella together as a team for about a year before we launched. In hindsight, it really shouldn't have taken that long. I don't think that if you are starting a company today, it is going to take you a year to launch, especially with all of the vibe coding and AI tools that we have at our fingertips now. But for us, we were all first-time founders. We were all super young. Connor and Nick had just graduated college. Natasha, who was also on our team, was still in college. I had never started a tech company before. So it just took us a little bit of time, and we didn't launch until about a year later. We also raised a friends and family round, so we raised $140,000 from friends and family, including $40,000 of my own money that I invested into this. And this was to really pay Natasha and anyone else that we needed to help us get this off the ground. After we launched, we ended up raising $1 million in venture capital. So this was after we already had users, but we were pre-revenue. And I'm gonna have a whole episode about the fundraising process because that deserves an entire episode on its own. I've talked about it before. I have other videos on here, but I'll definitely be doing a deep dive into that. And the way that we launched Rella is we built in public. So we had a lot of hype around it. I was talking about it on my YouTube channel. I was getting wait lists signed up. We had people testing it before it launched. We were constantly showing behind the scenes of what it's like to start an app. And that's another lesson, is I definitely think that every founder needs a social media presence, but let me know if you want me to touch on that. And once we launched, we learned a lot. You guys, If you are still in the building stage, you might think you know what your customers want. You might think you know the challenges ahead. But until you launch, it is like before you launch, you're living in black and white. And then after you launch, it's color because of how much more you learn and how many more things you're faced with. We had bugs. We had real people interacting with the product. People were interacting in the product in ways that we didn't anticipate. People were confused about certain things that we thought were intuitive because we've been working on this platform for a year. There were so many things that we learned and so many things that went wrong, but that's gonna happen to anyone when you finally release something and a product is born or a business is born. I think you're gonna learn 99% of your lessons after you launch. So we're gonna call that version of Rella, Rella 1.0, because what we have today, what you might interact with today with Rella is Rella 2.0. Because if you didn't know, I hinted at this earlier, but things didn't work out. Things did not work out with Rella 1.0. We almost shut down the company because things were not going well, and it was a really, really, really hard pill to swallow. Rella 2.0 survived and is kicking and is growing, and I cannot wait to tell you guys more. Rella 1.0 was made for the individual creator, a tool to help with your brand deals, manage all of your revenue, know how much money you're bringing in and what's projected, manage your goals as a creator, follower count or posting schedule, and then also manage your content. Rella 2.0, we shifted towards businesses. We are now for social media managers, agencies, in-house social teams. Although creators can still use us, creators will find us if they are treating themselves as businesses versus the other way around. Businesses were not using a creator tool. And the first product, we just didn't know who we were building for. We said we were building for creators, but then we also wanted to build for managers, talent agencies, social media agencies, freelancers, and we started building more and more and more for random demographics of people because, like a lot of founders, we thought more is more and more is better. If I can build for just one group of people, wouldn't it be so much better if I built for 1 million groups of people? Wouldn't that then make my pool so much bigger of like people who could come to us? We didn't even know who we were building for. Imagine a customer coming to us and they're like, oh, is this tool for me? How would they know? Because we built the most bloated, confusing app that didn't function great for any demographic we were trying to serve. With Rella 2.0, which is what you see today, we really, really narrowed our focus down. And on top of that, we also started as a free tool with Rella 1.0. We were not making money for the longest time. And when we started making money on Rella 1.0, the most we ever made in a month was like $3,500. It was not a lot of money. We were absolutely drowning and relying on the venture capital money that we raised, which does not make a business successful. So after 2 years of building Rella 1.0 and realizing that something was not working and that something was the company and the product, we decided we were going to try one last thing to keep the company alive, and we completely scratched Rella 1.0. We took it off the App Store. We got rid of it, and we launched Rella 2.0 from scratch. We had just enough money to try to build Rella 2.0 before we ran out, and that was like our last Hail Mary attempt to save the company. And like I said, Rella 2.0 was so much clearer. We were a project management tool for social media teams. Honestly, when I think back to the original idea of Rella, there was so much of that in there, but we just focused on the wrong group of people and we just focused on trying to do too many things at once. Now we were incredibly focused with what we were building and who we're for. So if you want to use Rella today, you can think of Notion and a content scheduler, but so much better and so much smarter if you're working in social media. And for listeners of this show, I am giving 10% off all annual plans on Rella. So if you guys want to sign up, use the code JustGrowWithIt so I know where you came from. And we were able to launch Rella 2.0 within 2 months. So like I said earlier, it should not take you a year to launch your first product. And long story short, it ended up working. It challenged us in so many ways. It was a very, very scary time, and it was a scary decision to make because we knew that this was our last chance. But we were at the point where we had to do something or we were just gonna die a slow death. And now we are profitable. We are considered a multi-million-dollar company. We have thousands of users all around the world. And all of that happened less than a year after we launched. There are so many lessons I have learned from this entrepreneurship journey that I am still in the very early stages of this roller coaster. So this podcast and this new show is going to go through everything. And I am so excited to take you guys along the journey with a fine-tooth comb. So make sure that you ask me any questions. You can share your own experience. Let me know what you want to see. As a founder, I definitely know how hard it is to start something. And that is exactly why I knew I needed to create something like this. Share all of the ins and outs of entrepreneurship and how you can just grow with it. Now that you have context, I am so excited for future episodes. I'm excited for my studio, and I'm excited to just share more of the ins and outs of building a business. Some of the things that I have in store is how to find a co-founder, when you know it's time to pivot, how to come up with your go-to-market strategy, how to know if you found product market fit or not. Be sure to subscribe and follow along for more episodes. I would love to know what your thoughts are on this new show. I'm excited. I cannot wait to see you guys next Wednesday. I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.